let's start with Trae Young and the Boston Celtics. So, a really interesting game here. It felt like to me, to be completely honest, I thought Atlanta played better, or at least Trae Young played better in the first quarter than any other part of this game. And I think that that is almost crazy to think about. Just the way that he dominated ball screens, I thought in that first quarter was absolutely incredible and so indicative of his ability that we're going to talk about here momentarily in ball screens to particularly manipulate bigs and manipulate his own defender by getting them on his hip, being able to get to that floater, being able to distribute. We saw a lot of Trae's best traits on display, I thought, in that first quarter, where the mix between his own shot and getting shots for his teammates, I thought was really on point. We saw an Onyeka Okongwu three-pointer in that first quarter, which was pretty wild, a pick and pop three from Onyeka. If he can do that, he is someone that will stick in the NBA for many, many years, in my opinion, and be a real starting center, unlike we have seen from him at this point, despite being the 6th overall pick. Just was absolutely an incredible performance in the first 6 minutes from Trae. And then in the second quarter, Atlanta's defense just completely fell apart. It was 39-34 after a pair of Sadiq Bey and Bogdan Bogdanovic three and fouled on a three-pointer to make 3 free throws. Boston had scored on the possession in the middle of that, I believe, with a Marcus Smart drive and finish, but they scored on 4 straight possessions there. Then they didn't score on 3 possessions. And then after that, they went on a run of 9 out of 10 possessions they got 2 or 3 points on. It was, I believe, a 2 straight threes, then a Malcolm Brogdon layup, then a Brogdon mid-range shot, then Derek White hit a corner 3, and then Brogdon got to the bucket for an and 1 for the 6th in a row. And then Jalen, I think, got a run out for the 7th in a row. Brogdon missed a wide open 3 on the potential 8th in a row, but then another Jaylen Brown fast break, and then a 3-on-1 layup for Jaylen Brown got them to 9 out of 10 possessions where they scored a bucket. And that was exactly what hindered Atlanta throughout the course of this game and what has hindered them throughout the course of this series. Now, let's go forward to the fourth quarter here, because I think that that is where things get really interesting. Boston goes up 102-89 with 9 minutes, 30 seconds left. And right as that's happening on the telecast with TNT, you get Boston coach Joe Mazzulla saying that they need to play the most disciplined, together basketball that they have played thus far. Let's say that means in this game. Let's say that means all season. Who knows? They're trying to close out a playoff series. I think it's reasonable for him to say that they needed to play their most locked in game of the season in that fourth quarter. And they did literally anything but. It was one of the worst offensive performances I have seen from a really good offensive team in the fourth quarter of a game. It was 109-96 with 6 minutes left after a Jaylen Brown 3. Boston scores, I believe, 117 points in this game. So in that last 6 minutes, they score 8 points. And by the way, I believe that 4 of those points occurred in the last 30 seconds. So basically for 5 minutes and 30 seconds, Boston scores 4 points. How did that happen? So at 4 minutes and 40 seconds, Jason Tatum settles for a 3-pointer. Didn't really have to do it. The next possession down, Jaylen Brown, multiple pivots. One of those classic Jaylen Brown contested mid-range shots. Doesn't go. Next possession. The Hawks put 2 on the ball around Jason Tatum. He throws a pretty lazy pass trying to get it cross court over from the right side of the court to the left side of the court. Turnover. That leads to a pretty sick sidestep Trae Young 3 that we'll get to momentarily. And then the next possession is an incredibly lazy Marcus Smart pass that gets deflected by Trae Young. That's a steal. And then the next possession is Rob Williams coming through, big offensive rebound, misses a free throw on an and one. Then the next possession down, a bad offensive foul on Marcus Smart with a really obvious moving screen. Then I believe 2 possessions later, a really terrible Jaylen Brown turnover where he leaves his feet without a plan and throws the ball and it just gets grabbed and stolen essentially. There was, I believe, only 2 possessions that I felt like were in any way positive over the course of this run for Boston. It was the next 2. Jaylen Brown goes up. He gets a pretty easy layup that he kind of smokes. Rob Williams gets the tip in. Or no, he misses the tip in. It was a really good offensive possession, though. Then the next one is the crazy jump ball that leads to the Jason Tatum recovery, and Robert Williams just kind of leaks out behind Atlanta's defense in a total fucking breakdown from Atlanta. But that's basically 2 possessions and God knows how many minutes of good offense for Boston. I believe it was for 5.5 minutes. 2 possessions of good offense for Boston. And simultaneously, we're just getting a Trae Young masterclass on the other side of the court. And this is where I want to dive into some tape here, because I thought what Trae Young did in this late third quarter, early fourth quarter run was really, really impressive and really kind of carried the way for Boston. What I want you guys to pay attention to here as I'm diving into this, Trae Young, for my money, is maybe the best guard in the NBA at engaging the big man that is either coming toward him, that is doubling him if teams put 2 on the ball, or that is playing in drop. He is constantly probing, and it's because of that 3-level scoring ability and passing ability that Trae Young has. He completely keeps these big defenders on their toes. There's not a single thing that they can do to stop him. Like with Anthony Edwards, you might be a little bit more comfortable taking, not worrying about taking away the pass because Anthony Edwards is not a great passer of the ball yet. Well, if you put 2 on the ball and you try and double team Trae at any point in a pick and roll action, he's going to find the open man. And I thought that Trae Young obviously did an incredible job tonight finding the open man, but let's kind of dive deep into this. So here is Trae Young. He's on Sam Hauser. The thing that Atlanta did really, really well throughout this late third, early fourth quarter run was make Trae Young find that mismatch big. That was his goal the entire third and fourth quarter. I am trying to find the best mismatch on the court for me to take advantage of who is in front of me. So here it's Sam Hauser. Sam Hauser just has no chance on this play. That is a mismatch. Trae Young, step back, easy. So here, Trae Young is going to take a screen from Saddiq Bey. Again, Sam Hauser is the man guarding Saddiq Bey. They decide to switch the action here. And then you're going to see Onyeka Okongwu come up, set this second little step-up screen. And then here comes Trae. It's really hard for Hauser to get through that screen. He engages Robert Williams as the big man, engages. Hauser gets back, but he's not really quick enough to be able to light enough on his feet is maybe a better word to stay in front of Trae. Trae just steps under, finds the open man at the basket after engaging Robert Williams, who has to step up to try and block the floater after Hauser over pursues a little bit. Here we go again. Trae Young coming up. He's going to take this little screen here. He's going to engage Robert Williams again. Engaging Robert Williams, just that extra second longer than he needs to. Rob Williams eventually has to recover back onto Onyeka, and it creates that little secondary hesitation in Derek White here as the on-ball defender. Look, because Rob Williams is so extended at that ball, Derek White can't really extend himself into that play. So you see Derek White kind of drop his shoulders back just a little bit. That gives Trae Young all the room he's going to need to get up for that little floater, right? So this is just going to be a little slip screen here from Onyeka Okongwu. Trae's going to come back. He's going to get the dribble handoff. And what this set does here that is really interesting is you see Bogdanovic come up. He sets this initial screen for Trae Young. That's going to get the first switch. And then now they're in a drop scenario with Blake Griffin having to guard in a drop. That is not a good scenario for Boston. I was very surprised to see Blake Griffin in this game at all. I know that it feels like the Celtics want to try and get him back just in case they need him for later series, but this was just not not the series for Blake Griffin, because you can't really do anything with him defensively against Trae. So here, I mean, Blake just has no real chance to guard. He's not long enough to be able to affect the Trae Young floater. He's not long enough to play in the gap really in situations like this. So here, you get Trae just get into the bucket easily. I believe this is the one where he has the little shake. This is a scissor action at the top of the key. That's what the Bogdan screen is. That's what the dribble handoff is. He gets the little behind the back fake, and that's going to create just that little bit of separation from Jaylen Brown to score. Okay, here we go again. This is a just a rejected screen here, if I remember correctly. And again, Blake Griffin not quite athletic enough just to stay in front and stop Trae from turning this corner here. Derek White kind of stumbles, but even just that little area for Trae Young, even just that small amount of space, that is how little space he needs to turn the corner. That's how good of a passer he is. If he is able to engage that big, he's always going to find that guy. This is Onyeka Okongwu again. Onyeka Okongwu closed this game for Atlanta. I thought he was absolutely terrific here. So here we go again. Dribble handoff. Trae Young. The key here before any of this happens is we're going to rewind just a touch more. Trae inbounds this ball to Bogdan Bogdanovic. And prior to the inbound, they have gotten the switch between Bogdan and Onyeka to where Al Horford is coming up, and he is going to be the guy that's going to be forced into Trae Young once Bogdan switches or slips that action to the corner. So here, what Trae Young was trying to do again was trying to get the big man on him every single time late in this game. I mentioned that big 3-point shot earlier that he hit, that 6 sidestep against Al Horford. He says to Bogdan, I want you to stay down there, stay down. I want to ISO Al Horford here. Just a quick inside out dribble, gets that nasty step back. Al Horford is a phenomenal defender despite his age at this point. Just that little bit of space is going to kill you every time against Trae Young. He can knock that shot down. Again, here you go. You get the switch, getting Marcus Smart off of Trae Young here. This time you're not going to get a switch, but because it's Jaylen Brown instead of Marcus Smart on Trae Young here, Jaylen Brown is just a little bit bigger, is just that much worse at getting through screens. So by getting that initial switch on the first screen, you're going to see that Trae Young is going to take this Onyeka Okongwu screen, a terrific screen by a terrific screener in Onyeka Okongwu. And at this point, he's just simply engaging the big. If Rob Williams drops too far, which is what he does here, it's just an easy pull up. If Rob Williams is out and trying to like trap him in the corner, it's just an easy pocket pass here for Onyeka Okongwu. You get the ball into rotation. Things work well that way. This is a 3. This ties the game at 111, right? Okay, and then finally here, what you're going to see, again, really good screen. This results in a switch, but what you're going to see here coming up is something that Boston did throughout this game generally. Whenever there was a big typically lined up on Trae, when it was to one side of the court for the most part, right around the 3-point line or inside. So Marcus Smart is going to actually come and double the ball here, believing that he is going to be able to try and make an impact in this play. The thing is that Trae recognizes this immediately and just goes baseline. He's trying to isolate Al Horford on him the entire time. So here he gets that extra step on Al Horford, just kind of out leverages him because he's bigger than Al and he's quicker than Al. So here Horford has to keep that left arm on Trae. He gets that foul. Jason Tatum makes a silly decision. I don't know if I love that being a technical foul in that spot, but he hits the ball. I can see why the referee would think that that is a disrespectful maneuver toward him. I don't know that it was necessary here. Just another Marcus Smart blunder. This is just a foul. I have no idea why he's trying to do this in this spot. Up 1 with 16 seconds left. Play defense up, like just straight up. Don't fuck around with this, in my opinion. I thought Marcus Smart, as we went through all of those turnovers on the offensive end, Marcus Smart was not very good in those last 6 minutes of this game. And frankly, I was very surprised to see that Joe Mazzulla did not substitute Malcolm Brogdon in, who throughout that second quarter that we ran through earlier, which is why I did that, running through all of those plays, making it seem like I'm just doing a play-by-play breakdown that you could read anywhere. It comes back. Malcolm Brogdon was phenomenal, I thought, offensively running the show for Boston. Marcus Smart was not in this game. Marcus is hit or miss a lot of the time in terms of whether or not he is going to be able to make an impact on the offensive side of the floor as a distributor in big moments. I was surprised to see Joe Mazzulla not go with Malcolm Brogdon down the stretch as the offense completely sputtered out during this little run. Marcus Smart makes a very egregious decision here to foul Trae Young. That gets it to 116, 115. Quinn Snyder on the other side of the court makes an incredibly poor decision, in my opinion, to leave Trae Young on the court for that defensive possession. I have no idea what Quinn Snyder was thinking there. Quinn Snyder is a very smart coach, and he made a very bad decision there. They just go down, they attack with Derek White. That is just easy. I would almost bet you that Joe Mazzulla told whoever in the huddle, if you have Trae Young on you, you're the guy that we're going to. We're attacking. Derek White gets downhill. Was super simple, was super easy. Gets the foul. It's 117, 116 now. And this is just a backbreaker, right? I mean, I have no problem with Jaylen Brown being the guy on Trae Young. If you will notice, that is not what was initially planned. I actually didn't get the initial action here where Trae Young is coming out. It was Marcus Smart. They switched Jaylen out onto him. And you know what? If Trae's going to make a 32-foot three to win the game, Trae's going to make a 32-foot three to win the game, and you have to manage that. But it shouldn't have gotten that far. There was no circumstance where Boston should have lost that game. They lost that game in large part because of their inability to execute offensively late in the game. Honestly, I didn't pull those clips because a lot of those clips aren't even that fun to run through. I thought they were just bad reads. I thought that they were bad decisions by Boston's team. And at the end of the day, Atlanta's going home. An enormous performance from Trae Young. Trae Young, I've had some questions about him throughout these playoffs, certainly in the first two games in Boston. He did an absolutely incredible job leading the way today for Atlanta, leading from the front, being the guy that needs to take over every game. He knows what he's capable of. I think Atlanta knows what he's capable of. And Boston learned today what he is capable of in these big moments where everything needs to go right for the Atlanta Hawks. They force a game 6. They get to go back home to Atlanta. They get to get DeJounte Murray back. They need to figure out a way to defend. I don't know if they can drop 119 against Boston again in this series. If they figure out a way to defend and you get more Trae Young heroics, that'll be important. I also want to note that I thought this was John Collins' best game of the playoffs thus far. I thought it was Onyeka Okongwu's best game. They got really high-level role player performances on the road outside of Trae Young. But the reason they're going back is Trae Young. And the reason that Trae Young was able to have as much success as he did is because of his success engaging the big, playing out of ball screens, and really dominating Boston's pick and roll defense. At some point, I'll probably break down Boston's defense. They've been kind of a mess this series, but I wanted to give Trae Young his flowers today.